Public speaking is actually what is required of you in your career. I invited a few friends who are stand-up comedians. I see Atupa GH on the call. Yeah. For somebody who is a stand-up comedian, for example, how can you be a stand-up comedian without public speaking? Politicians, we know they are the first people who come to mind when we talk about public speaking. So for some of us, we don't have a choice. It's a career that we have taken on. And then we just have to do it. So if you ask me why we need to do it, for some of us, we have no choice. And then for those of us who also believe we actually do have a choice, in any organization, in any institution, as you rise in either the academic or the social, even in your church, as you take on roles, speaking in public becomes a requirement. So you cannot be the church elder and never want to address the congregation. You cannot be a supervisor in your small session of 5 people or 6 people, and then decide that you never speak in public. So if you really want to rise wherever you find yourself, even in your WhatsApp group, if you don't post anything, if you don't talk, they will never elect you as the president of the group. So public speaking it becomes necessary if only you want to rise in your organization, in your career, or any other endeavor. One thing that one misconception about public speaking is that it is assumed that it's only the one speaking who is transmitting information or knowledge, and that is wrong. You actually learn so much from the people you are talking to, sometimes even more than they learn from you. Because public speaking is hardly a one-way street. Most of the time, you deliver and then you would want to get feedback. In getting that feedback, that process itself fills you up. I mean, it gives you so much experience and so much knowledge that the more you practice it, the more information, the more knowledge you also assimilate or you also accumulate, and then that helps you to improve on yourself as well. So public speaking as an art or as a science allows you to demonstrate as well as add to your own personal knowledge. Way back at school at the university, I had this habit of just reading a bit about what the topic is, either in sociology or geography, but at the least opportunity, I wanted to tell my study group what I've learned. At the point, it would have been seen as maybe trying to show off or something like that. But I found out that the more I explained it to them and the more they tried to punch holes in what I had to say, I got more information through that process, and it stuck with me more than just being a passive listener to others give their opinions. I don't know the culture of the people that are in the call now, not everybody, but I assume most of us are Ghanaians and most of us have grown up in Ghana. There is this stereotype that the one who always stands in front of a group is seen as the smartest. It is not always true, but it's a stereotype that we have in our society. And I have this example to share. When I first joined the company that I work for now, I finished national service and I had a short contract with the company. Then there was this program we were supposed to, the company decided to do it was like a drama, to use drama to teach about safety. We had more than 3,000 employees, and then they scheduled them in batches of 100 to 150. So I was asked to be the MC or the coordinator for every session. It went on for like 2 weeks. And then it was done. So for 2 weeks straight, this young man who just finished national service stood in front of a session about 150 people to explain what the drama was all about, to ask questions, take answers, throw questions to management, get responses for the audience. And this went on for 2 weeks, and 3,000 people went through that. Just after that, if anybody had a question, a critical question about the organization, its policies, its strategy, they will see me and then they come to me and go like, hey, Razak, now we cry, where is it going? Where is this issue going? We heard this is going on, is it true? So they simply assume that because I was the one who stood before the crowd for 2 weeks straight, I should know everything about the organization and where it's going. Of course I didn't. I just finished national service, but that stereotype worked in my favor. I was put on a certain pedestal that I knew that wasn't where I belonged to. But then favors came along the line. So that stereotype is also something that can work in our favor if we volunteer to lead in any public discourse. So that is just an example I think would bring the point home. Public speaking sets you above your colleagues at work. Yes, so just closely linked to the example that I've given. In any setup that you find yourself, in any section, if you take up that responsibility to put together people's thoughts and present on their behalf, it sets you apart from that. You become a born leader. Nobody has elected you into a position, but everybody thinks you should occupy it just because you have something to say. And it's a boost of confidence. You stand there, you deliver afterwards, oh, well done, here and there. It builds your confidence up. The ideas that you shared on stage, those ideas were just in your head. You didn't think it would fly, but you shared it on stage and you received positive feedback. From that point onwards, you also feel that, yes, you have something good to share. You have something good to say. So that is another reason why we should take public speaking a bit more serious. It improves electability. Well, if you are doing one form of politics or the other, either local government or partisan, any form of partisan politics, or even organizational politics and all that, you cannot avoid public speaking. And if you do it well, you may, in our part of the world, it's not a direct line. It's not always the one who presents the best policies in the most articulate way that is elected, and that is another debate for another time. But in general, in other jurisdictions, if you presented your issues well, you should sell better and then get more people interested. Before I move to this, yeah, I would really appreciate it if I could take one or two comments on the topic on the board now. Nature or nurture? Are public speakers made, or are they born? Are you born with a skill to be able to speak in public, or it is something you just learn and then you are able to deliver? Any comments, please? Feel free to unmute yourself and then share with us.
Both.
Can I share my opinion?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, what I know is no matter how skillful you are, if you don't even practice, at the end of the day, you will not become as skillful as someone who has gone with a lot of practice or training. So I think that with training, someone can become very better. So I will not go for an inborn one, but training per se.
Good. I see Techno Sparks on the, your hand is up. You want to share something with us?
Yeah, hello.
Yep.
Yeah, my name is Edu. Hello to everyone. I think that public speakers are born, it's something that comes with nature. Regardless of how much you train to actually close the gap or to learn, you can actually learn, to build that confidence and perfection. But I strongly believe that public speakers are born. There are people who have never sat in the classroom, but they have the confidence to stand in front of
Exactly.
There are people with degrees. I have a colleague that I completed an MBA with. To even address 5 people is a concern, or is a big challenge for her. You take somebody like Baku, the guy that you just rub your. If you put cameras and stuff on him, he's very confident to put out all the gibberish that he puts across. That is the confidence, and this is something that he has naturally. If you ask me to do a presentation at work, I remember the very first time that I was asked to do a presentation. For this, I was having nightmares, I'm thinking, am I going to be able to do this? Is everything going to go right? I was thinking about it. But I know for sure there are some people that when they are asleep, you just stab them. Hello, Raza. please, we need you to address these people. And it comes naturally, you know. So I believe that people with that confidence, the ability to address people publicly and speak publicly are born. But then also, they can also make the conscious effort to learn and then master it. You know, I have an I don't know if it's an appropriate time to share this, but I have an experience that I don't know if it's okay to.
It will get back to you on that. We have a few other hands up.
So I mean, just to conclude,
That's fine. That's fine. Go on.
Yeah, born, yeah. So that should be it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I see Jennifer's hand up as well. Jennifer.
Yeah, in my own point of view, I think I side with Edu. Public speakers are born, but they can be nurtured. Naturally, according to our temperaments, we are all not the same. People are born as introverts, some are extroverts, and some are the rest. I think if you don't have the flair to speak, or if you are not a lively person or an outgoing person naturally, you can't see the kind of gift that you have. So to me, I think public speakers, they are born with that. They are gifted with that. But you cannot be perfect or you cannot be a good speaker if you don't nurture it or grow it. So that's my little idea or view on the subject. Thank
Good
you.
point. Thank you, Sydney. The last one, then we move on.
Okay, thank you. Not all of us are naturally public speakers, though we have some great natural public speakers. But then, well, they may be born with it, but they also work at it. So the confidence and natural talent put together goes a long way to helping that act of public speaking for oneself. But then again, realize that communication is something that is acquired by nurturing it. I don't think that by nature we are good communicators, so that we are able to write, read, speak, talk, listen. I mean, communication generally, so that the best communicators for me are not born, but they are made.
Nice one. I see a comment. Ifwa is saying that Dr. Mensah Otabil, for example, is an introverted person, but a good public speaker. So yes, we good points all around. I've also seen a few comments in the chat box, Pastor Hughes, Emmanuel. Thank you for your comments. Yeah. So in my experience, this is what I have seen, and purely based on my experience in this field. So many people assume that good public speakers are simply gifted. Yes, it is true. We know about the Ronaldo and Messi debate, not about who is best. Of course, everybody knows it's Ronaldo, but that is not what we are talking about today. We are talking about whether it is all about talent or it is all about practice. And I think Edu, Jennifer, and everyone else nailed the point. Said the right things. It can never be about one. No matter how talented you are, if you go and bury the talent somewhere, you will not see results. And then it helps if you have a little bit of that talent and you also nurture it, you also develop it. That also goes a long way. So people say that Ronaldo has a little of the talent to play football in the skills and all that, and he has worked for the rest. Unlike Lionel Messi, that we sometimes conclude that he was actually born with a football on his feet. You can do anything with a football, and you can't fault him for that. So it's always a combination of both. There isn't anything under the sun that you can practice and become perfect at. So from my personal experience and a little reading I've done on the topic, authorities in this area believe that only 30% of the ingredients required to be a public speaker is talent. The other 70% is something you are born with. It's something you learn. So if you have the 30%, God bless you. If you don't, you still have 70% of that hidden somewhere that if you practice and practice and practice, you will surely get it. So please, to set the ball rolling or to go on to the next batch of discussions, I just want to lay this point bare that if you are in this call, if you know somebody who is not naturally talented, or you yourself are not talented when it comes to standing in front of people and expressing yourself, you know it. A lot of people know a lot of stuff that they can't teach. I had a good friend like that. He would always score A in class, and you ask him how he did it, and then he will not be able to tell you. And we thought he was just being wicked and not teaching us. But over time, I got to know that no, he knows it, but he can't teach it. And there are others that do not know much, but you just give them one idea, the Bukom Banko example that they do give, and then they can run with it and then break the whole thing down to the level that no matter who you are, your educational background or society, your status in society, you will still appreciate them. So the rest is learned. So practice, practice, and practice again, and you would get there. What do you actually practice? What do you practice? So the ability to articulate well to an audience is more nurture, 70% more nurture than nature. So the old debate about nature or nurture comes in here again, and nature takes it by a wide margin. Another quote. This is an interesting one. Jerry, whatever the surname is a comedian, an American comedian. And he says that according to most studies, people's number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. Death is number two. Does that sound right? That means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. So you are at a funeral, you are called to read a tribute. And to most people, they will prefer if they were rather in the casket. They will prefer to, like, you heard it before. I wish the earth would just open up and swallow me. People say that. So you wish you had died rather than stand in front of a crowd and speak. So according to this comedian, that is how people feel about public speaking. Does this sound extreme, or is this something that we know of or are used to? Feel free to put your comments in the chat box or raise your hand and I will call you. Two people at this point. Any comments?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
You see, I wish you had been spontaneous about this. You'd have gotten the answer right there. If you're just calling anybody at random, I mean, catching somebody unawares. Yeah, so the first reaction for me explains everything here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sydney, you are listening.
Yeah, I mean, if you had been spontaneous and called anyone, I mean, at random,
then it plays right into the
true meaning of it.
Yes.
Exactly, practically.
Yeah. But then I think you've done it. The fact that you are the only one commenting and there's nothing in the chat box also tells me that this might be true for most of us, or we know somebody who wouldn't dare mount a stage to address a crowd. But it is serious. You are called to come and read a tribute and you wish you were rather in the coffin. That is a bit extreme. Yeah.
But sorry.
Go ahead.
Right. For people who have this ability to talk or to do public speaking naturally, your statement now will just dawn on them the fact that they have overcome the fear that is a gift to them. Because in reading this statement, you sit down quietly to analyze and you realize it's very true, if not for the fact that the nature bit of their lives is playing, that is covering the first fear for them places when you ask somebody, a group of people, and you ask a question, it takes a lot of time for one person to start talking, then the rest will start following with their comments. But until somebody breaks the ice, it's always silence in the room or wherever. So I think it's very true.
May I?
Can I also come in, sir?
Yeah, hello. You can go on, please. You can go on.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've seen such a quote.
Yeah.
But as people were sharing their opinions, I've got to realize how truthful this quote is. I've been a church leader for a while, and I know people I can chat with. But once we are in a group and you even ask a question, they dare to even stand up to answer.
Exactly.
So I think it's very true. I buy into that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I have a comment in the chat box that says that for me, for instance, I can speak within me, but to the public is something else. I've been voted as communication officer. Ooh, for a party made for me to learn how to speak in public, but what comes out of me is not as good as what is within me. Perfectly, I'm captured. I believe this should be a nice quote that we should share. Sometimes it is like that. You know, in a build up to this event, I put out a few flyers and I said that there was a quote on one that said that there are three kinds of speeches: the one you prepare and rehearse for, the one you actually give, and the one you wish you would have given. So that talks to what you just posted in the chat box. You have something nicely prepared in you, you go and deliver, you come back and then you wonder, why didn't I say this one instead? So yes, that's interesting. Let's move on. Okay, so now we are going deeper into what we had planned for today. I titled this the formula for success. I put it that way boldly and a bit arrogantly because for me, it has worked. And I just hope that it might have worked for a few of you as well. And then we can maybe use this as a blueprint. You see, you can't teach what you don't know. Simple.
Yeah.
You cannot teach what you don't know. No matter how you cram the whole thing in your mind, if it isn't something that you know yourself, standing in front of a crowd to explain it, you will fumble. So the first formula is that you should know your stuff. Know your stuff. You don't necessarily have to be the world's best or an expert in that field, but you should come close before you decide to stand in front of people and talk. So let's use this session as an example. I may not have had the opportunity to lead international, well, maybe I have, but not something that is known widely that Razak is able to stand in front of a crowd and deliver. But at least it should come close. Without that, you would fumble. You would not know the people you are addressing. And the least show of a contrary view might distort everything that you had planned to come and talk about. It happens to our politicians all the time. You mount a platform, you start delivering, and you have somebody like our good old Benadavle in the crowd. After you have received all the accolades and claps and, oh, Bitimia, yeah, he's this, he's that, He raises his hands up and then he throws one question. And for the next 2 weeks, everybody is talking about your response to that question and not all the other things that you delivered. So you need to know your stuff. That is the first point. What you don't know, that's what I believe you can't teach. The second point is that we all have nerves. We all have nerves. One good way to break the nerves is to start with a very good icebreaker. So I say icebreakers shatter the chill. There is always a chill in a room when you are up to speak, even virtually. This is what I did with the puzzle that we did at the beginning. So I could have just launched straight to talk about myself. I could have launched straight into the presentation proper, but I looked at the participants and we were hovering around 50, 60 when we started. And I started seeing some names of people that I know are better at this topic than I am. I started seeing friends that I have not heard from in years. So the jitters, the nerves started coming in. So in building this presentation, I deliberately put those puzzles ahead that, hey, if it should ever come to it, I am going to warm myself into the presentation by playing a few jokes, by playing a few puzzles. And if you would admit, it worked for you as well. If you didn't know what to expect with this session and you came in and saw the list of people in it, some with their videos on and all that, yes, there's no pressure on you because you are not the one who advertised the program and all that. But then you would still have some feeling in your tummy. But when the puzzle started and it was funny and it was fun and everybody relaxed. And I believe that is why, since we started, answers to questions have also been flowing. Comments are also coming from our participants because these icebreakers are actually field levelers. It brings all of us to the same level. You don't have to be a university graduate to know those puzzles, and you don't even have to step in the classroom to get them. So if you thought somebody in the group was better than you and you got the puzzle right and they didn't, your confidence level went up at that point. And for the rest of this presentation, I assure you, the nerves are never going to come. So always start with icebreakers. We are very good people. People who are very good at that. If your pastor comes to church and he's introduced, he goes to the podium, and the first thing he does is to call out somebody in the audience and crack a joke or say something about how the podium looks or a new chair that they bought for him and the fact that sitting in it is not as comfortable as the previous one. It's not about a pastor showing off, but these are tips. These are things that some people have learned to use to break the ice before they start their presentations. These points are not arranged in order of importance, so please bear with me on that. Practice, practice, practice. You've already said everything about this. No matter how good you are, no matter how experienced you are, you need to practice. Again, a quote by Mark Twain that I posted before as part of the teasers to this event was that it takes him 2 to 3 days to prepare for an impromptu speech. So you get the joke in that. Impromptu, what is impromptu? Being called out of the blue to give a speech. But he is saying that it takes him 2 to 3 days to prepare for even that one. So it means wherever he goes, he assumes he might be called. And if he has any interesting thing to say, he'll be rehearsing it in his mind so that if out of the blue, somebody asks him to give an impromptu speech, then that is what he would put up. So again, practice, practice, practice is the best way out. Even with this session, if I should confess the number of hours that went into practice, and you will not believe it. But even then, there are still glitches in terms of the logistics and all that. So always make sure that you practice before you take the podium. A debatable, controversial point, but I'll make it anyway. Another point I think will take on more comments as well. Reading is bad. Don't stand in front of a crowd and read out to them. It's bad. Cramming is even worse. Baba, if you're a Ghanaian, you know what I mean by Baba. Cramming is even worse. Reading is bad. Why? Reading affects your body language. Those of you on Facebook Live who can see my video feed, you can tell all the distractions that are going on here anytime I tend to read from the screen. So that body language, what does it speak of? Lack of confidence. He doesn't know his stuff. So as much as possible, avoid having to read a speech in front of people. The controversy is in what I put here, the Mahama example, the Mahama experience. Please forgive me if you are too political, but I'll say it. We all know about where is my speech, that incident. So that is a classic example of reading being bad. We know our former president is not a bad orator. I mean, as communication minister way back, he was the darling of every Ghanaian. When he came on Metro TV in the early days of Good Evening Ghana, he was the one that everybody looked up to, very objective. But the pressures of being the head of the country are not the same as just being a communicator for a political party. The time that he might have had at his disposal to prepare for some of the wonderful speeches that he might have given, he wouldn't have had it whilst he was president. So he had a speech in front of him with a lot of sheets, and then whilst reading it out, he then found out that a particular sheet was not in there. So that can happen to anybody. That can happen to anybody. It might not be a fair comparison, but let me make it the same way. I mean, all the same. When Obama visited Ghana and went to Parliament, he was called to address Parliament, and the man started speaking. He talked about building institutions and not, strong institutions and not strong individuals. He mentioned Anas by name and praised him for his journalistic, the investigations that he does. He mentioned another lady police woman, I've forgotten the name, and praised her as well for something she did in relation to child labor. So watching this from home, what message did that tell you? That this man knows about Ghana. This man is prepared. Of all the countries in the world, Obama took time to learn about our journalists. I mean, all that. Then when he was done, he presented an envelope to the speaker. And I later found out that was the speech that he had just delivered. So all along, the speech, I understand, was in that envelope. I understand there was no teleprompter at the parliament, at the chamber at the time. So it was all about learning what he wanted to do, and then he came out and said it. Later on, that speech was published, and going through it, you will see that he did not cram it either. He did not read, he didn't recite it word for word. Rather, he knew the points he wanted to talk about, and then he put the speech down and said those same things in his own words, citing examples and all that to buttress his point. So reading is not encouraged, but then cramming is even worse. What happens with cramming? What happens is that you spend all the time in your own head trying to remember the things you have memorized, instead of engaging with the crowd, even eye contact. So those are the points that I would like to make about reading and cramming. I saw there was a hand up. Let me see if it is still up. No, the person has put it down now. Okay. All right. So, are we okay? Reading and cramming. Do you have any experience to share? Do you have any?
My hand is up. Please.
All right, please go ahead. I see 3 hands up. Vivian, Isabel.
Yes. Yes. And so on the point of reading, yes, of course, it's not always the best, but I don't think it is so bad that you put down certain points. I remember I had to MC a whole university program for the very first time. I got a bit nervous. I was doing anytime I have to do MC, I don't read. But then with the way my nerves were behaving, I just needed to put down certain points, maybe the points, not details, the points that would help me. And I realized that when I refer to the points, I'll just look at it, glance at it, then I know what I have to say. It did work for me. So I think that it is not always right, maybe just not reading the whole details, but you can still put down certain points that would help you flow. like we all say, sometimes you have to practice. You know your facts already. You know what you want to say. But if your nerves want to mess up with you a bit, and you have certain points written down, I think that it will help your situation. So it's not always that you don't have to get any sheet in front of you, but it should get something. Thank
Very
you.
good. That is the exact point that I wanted to put across. It's not everybody who would remember the sequence of the speech that they want to give. So if you have to put an outline there, that's fine. You look on the outline and you raise your head for the next 10 minutes. You are not looking on anything until you've exhausted developing that point. Then you put your head back down, look on the next point, and you develop it in your own words again. So that is very important. Thank you, Vivian. I see Joseph's hand up as well. Say.
Thank you very much, Razak. Okay, so as you mentioned, that point is controversial. Are there not some periods where you have no choice but to read?
Yes, there will be. I mean, academic environment, even at the workplace, there are certain
exactly my point.
The boss just put the document in front of you. You are not the one who prepared it, but you have to
read.
So let's talk about that. What do you do in that? If you have enough time, print it out in font sizes that you can see. That is number one. And it reduces the length of time that it takes you to, get your head down and up again. So first of all, yes, make sure you present, whatever document you have in front of you is very readable, legible. And number two, I am not a good reader, let me confess. I am not a good reader in the sense that it takes quite a while. I have to read a thing in my head and then bring it up. If you are that person, don't try to rattle. Don't try to go at a pace that is beyond your natural speed. So I look on the paper and I say in my mind, the boy went up the hill. So that sounds right to me in my mind. Before I actually bring it out, the boy went up the hill. You see, that you go at your own pace if you have to read it. But then if you are somebody who has practiced reading either through church, Sunday school, through other means, and then you are that good at just transmitting whatever is on paper into words as fast as possible, then you go at it. There are some situations that you can do that. So again, what you do is that use markers. If the pen that you are holding, or even your own hand, whenever you happen to raise your head, which you must do, when you read at a point, you need to raise your head to acknowledge that you are talking to people and not just talking to yourself or just the podium in front of you. So that communication, that raising of the head and looking into people's eyes, it helps you to take the people along. If you fail to do that, you will be reading, but they will be dozing off. They will not be listening. And when you take your head up, bringing it back down, you must lose the paragraph or the line that you were reading. So having a bigger font size helps you. And also, if you have a pen or a marker, anytime you are about raising your head up, put it where you'll find you left off. Then when you come back, you know exactly where to continue from. If not, you can even use your own hand. You have your hand on the podium, you are reading, you just raise your head up and then you come back again and you know where to continue from. It's quite embarrassing when you come back and everybody is quiet, the room is quiet, and you are now looking for where you ended up. If you have a stubborn person in the crowd, will start clapping for you, your nerves will start coming in, and then everything that you read after that might not really be what you want to put across. Christy, I see your hand up as well.
Okay, so thank you. Razak, I once had an opportunity to read tributes at a church.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the family couldn't get me the program before getting there. It was when we got to the church, they gave me the program to do the reading for them. But what I did was, I was reading all right. I wasn't reading verbatim, like everything from it. I was just adding because I knew the wife already. I was just adding, I was reading for the wife, in fact. So I have to add certain things that I know about the man and then between the man and the woman. But my point is that in such a situation, do you have to reject the reading, like reject to do the program for them, since you have not gotten the time to get the program to practice yourself? Do you have to reject, or do you have to go ahead and then do it in your own style to suit the program? Thank you.
Perfect question. And for the example that you gave, you have to be so close. If you can mute the mic now, please. Yeah. For the example that you gave, you are so close, you have to be close to that family to be selected to read a tribute on behalf of the wife. So, rejecting it is out of the question. They would, it will come with relationship issues. And you did the best thing. I mean, you did the right thing by making it your own. What I would have added would be to tell my audience that is what I'm doing. Because at funerals, you see everybody flipping alongside with you. And you don't know what somebody will take away from it. Oh, she didn't even do well with a tribute. Look at the way she just glossed over all these facts. That might be something that somebody might carry away with. But you can help the situation by saying something about it. That maybe for the purpose of time, and or since everybody has a copy already, you just going to go through the next tribute on behalf of the wife, and you hope that the entire congregation goes along with you. Page so and so, you mention it and then you go on. So auntie so and so was this, was that. As for her education, no, they've written about her education, but you don't want to put your head down and read all that paragraph. So for her education, those of you who know her know that she spent most of her years in Nigeria, where she did her first degree all through to her master's before coming back to Ghana. You have presented that whole paragraph that talked about JHS, and she traveled to Nigeria when she met the husband and did this and did this. You see, but because you said it up front, you gave some kind of a reason up front why you want to just skim through. I'm sure you will not have that. But yes, as I said, it's about relationship. It's not everything that you can reject outright that you will not read. You make it your own if you can. If not, go through it, read it. Make sure you make eye contact as and when. I see so many hands up, and that is exciting. If I don't respond to your question the way you would prefer, please, others in the meeting can also chip in and assist in explaining if you had similar situations that you wish to put across. So Mira, your hand has been up for a while. If I get a name, I got a name right. Mira, please.
Yes, hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Myra.
Myra.
Yes, Myra. So my question is this. So I'm already doing what I'm going to ask about. I've often heard that using filler words like, those kind of things in a speech is not very ideal. I just wanted your take on that, and then maybe other words that you can eliminate, because I tend to do that personally. Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. Have you ever heard a Frenchman speak in public before?
But I'm not French.
It is part of, no, you see, so the art of speaking in public is a universal thing. And yes, it's not ideal, but it is a defense mechanism for those who stammer as well. So if you just go like I'm doing, saying and all that is not engaging enough, you may want to do away with this if you can, but that shouldn't keep you from putting your hand up for a public engagement, because as I said, it is actually a defense mechanism that is taught that if you are somebody who stammers and you have nerves coming in as well, the best way to do it is to slow down, take in deep breaths, and when you talk, you could intersperse it with all these breaks that you talked about. So it is not a game changer. It doesn't kill your speech. It doesn't make people follow you less. In fact, it all depends on how you do it. If you were reading, it will look awkward. If you were reading and you were still going by then it's like you don't even know the words in front of you. You are struggling to pronounce the words in front of you. That is where people misjudge it to mean that you don't know what you're talking about. But if you start a speech and it's obvious everything is coming straight from you, and at a point you have to pause to gather your thoughts to continue, we'll get there. We'll get to your tone, how your voice should go like. You see, you don't always have to have the same tone from the beginning to the end of the speech. You deliberately even bring down your voice at certain places just to get people to pay attention. When I'm screaming, you are listening to me at a certain a certain level. When I start to talk quietly and I start to whisper and you are struggling to hear me, you then try and pay more attention, and that brings you back to me until I raise my voice again like I just did. So all these are skills that we employ to make to grab the attention of the people we are trying to address. I don't know if I answered your question. Myra.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Still so many hands up. Let's take two more if you don't mind. Moses has not spoken. Edu, you have. So let's take Moses. We'll come back to Edu later.
Thank you, Mania. Please, can you hear me? I'm having difficulty with my network. I don't know whether I'm clear.
Who is managed? I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I become...
Oh, Moses, your line is gone again. Okay. Moses, can you sort it out and come back, please? The line is gone again. Can we have Edu, then we move to the next slide? Edu.
Yeah, Razak, thank you. I just want to find out the formula that you shared, or the principle, do they apply to every form of public speaking? Because as you were going through, I was just thinking through, for me, when it comes to public speaking, all that I think about is corporate presentation.
Corporate institutions. Please raise your voice a bit.
Hello?
Yes, it's better now.
Yeah, I said corporate like presentation when I have to
Good.
office. So for me, that is my public speaking. Every time I have to do public speaking or anything, it has to do with that. But as we're going through, I heard people talking about emceeing, reading tributes and all that. And I realized, look, I've just been focusing on just my area. So I just want to find out all the principles or the formula that you share, they apply to every form of public speaking, or every form of public speaking comes with its own formula or skills or tactics?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. That was one of the struggles in putting up this presentation. Every single situation comes with its own expectations, but then there are still some basic underlying factors that you can grab. For example, what I talked about, the voice, the tone of the voice. It doesn't matter whether you are emceeing, preaching, or giving doing a corporate presentation. Corporate presentations by nature might be boring, but then that is not where to go cracking jokes. Or maybe, if I say cracking jokes, I mean telling long stories. The joke could just be about something that you've just seen. I mean, the microphone that failed or something like mine did at the beginning of the program. You see, that alone, you stand in front of your bosses. You can't start with a puzzle, as I said. But then you stand in front of your bosses, and then one of them goes like, hey, is that a new suit? And you respond like, boss, it's true. The last bonus I received, I had to buy a new suit. I had to change my wardrobe. And they all laugh. Every nerve that you had before that statement should disappear after just that discussion. So that is the icebreaker for you. So though icebreakers are important in every situation, the kind of icebreaker you will use, whether it's a corporate event and a wedding MC or a church program, would be different. So the principles are the same, please take that. But then you will come to analyzing your audience. When you analyze your audience very well, you will know that this particular principle is applicable in this situation, but as for this one, I don't have to go there. Your time, even the time that you have to deliver. Hello, microphones, please. Edu, I don't know if I've clarified it a bit for you.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much.
All right. Can we move on to the few more slides, then we come back for another discussion? Thank you. So the next point is that don't invite expectations. This is to my stand-up comedy guys who are in the call, and actually to even the MCs who are here. We are found, I say we because I MC as well, I don't do stand-up comedy. Not yet anyway. We are fond of saying when we are MCing that, hey, this funny thing happened one day. Oh, I have a funny story to tell you. I have this interesting thing to say. Please stop inviting expectation. Just say the story and let your audience judge if it's funny or not. If they don't laugh, you lose nothing or you don't lose much. But if you precede your statement by saying you have a funny story to tell, then you have raised the expectation to the extent that everybody's expecting to laugh at the end of it. And if it falls flat, it kills your confidence and the nerve setting from that point onwards. So another critical point is that if you're addressing a group of people and you have something interesting to say, let them be the judge of how interesting the thing is. Don't overhype it. Let's say you are being introduced to come in and you are being introduced at a function and you know the person MCing. Ghanaian MCs are fond of that. They come in and then they give you all the accolades. They hype what you're about to do so much that that mounts so much pressure on you when you take the microphone. Oh, he has this number of years of experience in this. He has done this program several times before. He's this, he's that, he's that. So now they don't even say without much ado. They say without much I do. No, I can't bro. Then everybody is up. So let's all be standing. They don't also say be standing. They say be up standing or up on your feet or something like that. And then everybody is clapping. If it's at a church, so go for his Bible. Then you can't even carry your own. But after that hype, the standard has been set for you. Chances are that you will drop that standard. So if you have a way of managing the hype, please do. You can whisper to whoever is introducing you that, hey, let's go slow. You can have all those accolades rehashed, or okay, you can have those accolades presented when you are done. When you are done and you hand the microphone over to whoever introduced you, then they can say all the things that they wanted to say about you in the first place. So it is better to undersell, then you plan very well, and then you overperform. If you oversell it, no matter how you plan, performance becomes a problem. So that is another point that I believe we should note. Next would be that you should engage. You shouldn't just lecture. Again, back to Edu's question, you should engage, not lecture. What if your public speaking is lecturing? That is the question that I'm sure somebody will. But even with lecturing, we have all sat in lecture theaters before. Who are the lecturers that you remember? Those who engaged you, those who asked questions, those who asked you to stand in front of the class and also say something, those who made fun of somebody in the classroom whilst they were teaching that serious topic. So somebody defined lecturing as the process of transmitting knowledge from the lecturer's book to the student's book without it passing through any of their heads. That is a very harsh definition that I'm sure Vivian will not agree with me. So he says that lecturing is the process of transferring knowledge, information from the lecturer's notebook to the student's notebook without it passing through any of their heads. So that is the kind of lecturing that I'm saying we should avoid. That is not proper lecturing. Proper lecturing is when the lecturer knows the thing and is trying to help the student also know the thing. It is not just about copying and then going to read later at home. So don't do that. What you need to do is to engage. There is nothing wrong with engaging your audience. I know the stand-up comedians who say that is a dangerous and it's a slippery ground. You go engaging the audience and they start trolling you on stage, and then you lose your material and you start to engage with them in the crowd instead. Well, your situation is different, and we have masters of that. We have people who can actually engage an audience in an entertainment venue, and they turn the trolling back onto the audience, and they have the perfect show ever. In a more formal setting, in a corporate environment, you are making you have a presentation going. we needed to assist a certain school. I'm an old student of that school. None of the executives in the meeting knew about it. So everybody was chipping in. This is what we must do. This is what we must do. And then I wanted to say something. Again, to calm down my nerves in front of my bosses, I used the disclaimer as my joke. When like, okay, so before I make my comments, I just want to say that I'm an old student of that school and that whatever I say here has no bearing on the fact that I'm an old student. I'm just being as objective as I can. Then they started laughing. My friend, go on, go on, go on. So that actually relaxed me, and I went on to make my point. So engage them, engage the audience. Next, it is not a crime to say I don't know. Many people struggle with public speaking at the point where they try to pass on information that they don't know. That is very, very critical, especially when it comes to maybe Q&As. It is not a crime to say that you don't know. In a corporate environment, you have made your presentation, there's a question has come up, and you just know that you should have known that. So in an attempt not to present to your bosses that you didn't learn something or you've forgotten a critical information, you would want to play around and weave around the point. You would expose yourself, and that is what they go home with. Whatever you fumbled with, that is what your audience will go home with. It is no crime. Just yes, oh, I should have come with this information. Unfortunately, I didn't. Can I get it and email it back to you right after here? Despite all the repercussions of that, it is still better than to say that, to lie or to try and speak more, dig more. You see, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you need to do is to stop digging. The fact that you don't know is that you have found yourself in a hole. The best thing to do is not to dig further. If you try to go round and round and round, you dig a hole that is so huge that you cannot be pulled out of. So it is not a crime to tell your audience that you don't know. You will find out and get back to them, or in a different setting rather than the corporate one the example that I gave. You could even throw it back to the audience. For example, I've done it several times in this presentation. If I have not had the experience of what anybody brings up, I have 100 people on the call now. I would want to throw it back to them. Definitely, there must be somebody here who had the experience that is being asked of. So I leave it open. And what does it take away from you, the one who is leading the presentation? It doesn't take anything away from you. It rather adds to it that you are being honest in your dealings. Finally, on this slide, I said that you should start on a high and also leave on a high. Primacy and recency effect, also a psychological concept, a sociological concept that I believe some of us may be familiar with. Primacy, what do you say first? Recency, what do the people live with? So when I come in to give a speech, the first things that I say should be something that will capture everybody's attention. That is what you are looking at with your first sentence, to capture attention. And the rest of the speech, what you want to do is to heighten their interest or maintain it. And when you're about to leave, you even want to leave them with something memorable. So the first one is to capture attention. The second one is to keep them interested. And finally, when you are leaving, you should leave them with a memory, because you don't expect people to go out of a meeting, a 2-hour meeting or a performance, and remember every single thing that was said. But then you need the first one to get them interested. You need whatever is in the middle to get them to stay, and you need to say something that they will go home with. So that is very, very important. And when you are structuring your speech, make sure that you do it that way. I like stand-up comedy, so I'll be using a lot of that as an example. And what they do there is not mere entertainment. It is pure science that they do there. They know what they call the punchline and where to place the punchline. If you bring the punchline too quickly, your story is not told, the people have finished laughing. You get it? And then every comedian goes on stage with with a guide as to how they are going to start their jokes and then where they will eventually end it. But what happens if 90 or 80% through your time, you have the loudest laugh and people are hysterical, they are moving their chairs around? Would you risk it to go the 10%, or would you want to drop the microphone and walk off stage? That is a balancing act that very few people can master. Yes, you were given 15 minutes. You've done 10 minutes. If somebody might say, oh, he didn't really spend time on stage and he charged that this much. That is a risk. But then what about, oh, he spent all the 15 minutes and the jokes were all dry? That is also another risk. So if at minute 10, you get the response that you want in a performance, mic drop. Corporate environment, you can't do that. You must finish the slides. You don't drop the mic because your boss said, oh, that is a good point you've made. So in this situation, you arrange your presentation in such a way that the high point is what you hit at the end. You want to make a presentation about how your company can save $1 million. You need to start the presentation by saying how they can save $1 million. That is what will get their attention. If you start by talking about the waste in the system that you want to eliminate, they already know. They won't follow. So you quickly come and say that, yes, I have an idea that can save us $1 million. They will all set up. Yes. Then with your figures, the boring stuff, you use that to take them along. But then when you're about to end, there should be one statement, one line, one paragraph that they take home with, that maybe they need to buy a new equipment to save $1 million. That is all you need to end with. That's so. Having said all this, if you acquire this device within a year, $1 million will be ours. Device, $1 million. Thank you. And you leave the presentation. So the person goes home, hey, this boy, device $1 million. Well, let's read over the proposal again and see whether what he says really hits it. So that is about the primacy and the recency effect that I would like to talk about. I'll soon come back for more questions and comments, but then let me finish with this slide since we have about 30 minutes more to go. Know your audience. As I said, I've not arranged these points in order of priority, but then if I should, this would be number 2. From knowing your staff, number 2 would be knowing your audience. What is their social status? So for this presentation, that is the risk I have taken. I don't know my audience. It is a first in the series that I'm doing. I wanted to remove all barriers that people may have to join. So there's nothing like pre-registration, but I should have done pre-registration to give me a glimpse into whom I'm going to talk to. So if you registered and I collected information about your profession, I would know whom I'm talking to. So now I'm talking to 100 people, and apart from those who spoke that I think I know a few of, I don't know them. So I may be cracking jokes that might not sit well with somebody. So that is a risk. So don't take that risk. Know your audience, their social status, their level of education, the kind of language you use is important. I'm tempted to intersperse my presentation with some keywords, but if you notice, anytime I go back to do the English, because this thing was put on social media and social media is worldwide. I don't know who has tuned in, who can't speak Twi or understand Twi. So I need to know their level of education, their appreciation of the language, the extent of the understanding of the topic. Am I talking to professionals? If I am, at the end of it, somebody could raise their hand and say, Razak, this is total nonsense that you have just shared with the world. Please don't do that again. Yes, so you need to know who you are talking to. And then know the culture. It is very important. In this day of political correctness, I mean, everything you say is offensive to somebody. So you need to know the culture of the people. I took a risk by talking a bit of politics. I don't know the repercussions after the program, but then it's all part of the thing. But it shouldn't be so. But unfortunately, we find ourselves in a situation where political correctness has become the order of the day. So if I don't know the culture of the people I'm talking to, what I assume to be good body language could be insulting. I've been folding my hands every now and then, but in some cultures that could be seen as arrogance. Yes, I've been turning my head all around and not looking into the camera at a point. Somebody might interpret that as not being confident. So I need to understand the culture of the people that I'm talking to. So you really need to know your audience. Work the room. Imagine you have a big hall, a lot of people, they are waiting for you. You got there a few minutes early. Work the room. Walk around, arrive early, walk around, interact with those who have also arrived early. You don't necessarily have to introduce yourself that I'm the one who is coming to speak. Just find out what everybody is talking about. They might have just grouped outside, about to enter the hall, discussing soccer or politics or something else. Chip in, feel their views about certain things. That the information you pick from working the room would always be your best icebreaker. So what you've discussed, any funny thing that happened before you went on stage, you go on stage and repeat it. That is a good icebreaker. Those people who were involved in that discussion, who didn't know you were the main speaker, immediately you start retelling the story or the discussion you just had. They will be your backbone, your main support throughout the discussion or throughout the presentation. They might even raise their hand to acknowledge that, yeah, I'm the one who was talking to him. Or you look for them and point to them, oh, so I was just having an interaction with those guys over there. And gosh, these guys know their sports. You see, so they just smile, they laugh. Their smile communicates positively to you and it kills your nerves and you can move on from there. So please remember to work the room if you can. Corporate presentations, all the same. I don't think our bosses are people we fear. So you arrived early. The first person who came was a boss, but he's not the only person you're going to talk to. So before the others come, yes, you can just bounce an idea off the person who is there early. You can test your microphone and just, oh, say, please, was the mic, Claire, did you hear what I, oh, yeah, sure, you guys have done well. Just that you guys have done well alone is a confidence booster for you to continue with your presentation. Very important, don't apologize for nerves, and I can't stress that enough. Don't apologize for nerves. Oh, I'm sorry. I usually don't do this, so please, you are shaking. Then go like, oh, forgive me for shaking. I know my hands are shaking, but forgive me. No, don't apologize for the nerves. You see, bear in mind that most people in an audience actually want you to succeed. That is a fact. Most people in an audience, maybe the only exception might be if you're addressing a group of prisoners, then maybe they are forced to be there, so they have no choice. But somebody has spent time to come and listen to you. So I don't believe that person's intention is for you to come and fail. So please, be confident and don't apologize if your nerves start to show. Once you do, okay, let me take a step back. When you start shaking and the nerves start to show, not everybody would notice from the beginning. There are a group of people in that audience that might not even be paying attention to you. So they don't know, they haven't seen that you are showing nerves. Once you apologize for it, you attract the others who were not paying attention that, oh, Sana, he was actually shaking. Let me pay attention to that. And with all that attention comes more tension. So please do not apologize for your nerves. Work through them, talk through them. Use the icebreakers, identify an audience member who is agreeing with you. Pay attention to that audience member, but don't fixate on that person. So that is what I mean by the next point. Smile, breathe. You smile, you take deep breath. You identify a group of people who are fixated on you, who are paying attention to you, who are smiling, who are giving you positive feedback, they are nodding, and then you do what? You take inspiration from them. And even if what you're saying didn't make sense, at least you have somebody who is nodding as though it made sense. Immediately, you come back to your senses and then you move in the right direction that you had planned all the same. The most important thing is that don't pay too much attention to that group only. Otherwise, it means you are only engaging with them. Once you have soaked enough energy, positive energy from them, you spread it out. Then you can move. You work the room. If there is enough space for you to move around on the stage. Go left to right. Engage somebody at the one corner, engage another person at another corner. So that is also very important. Use the space very well, and then ensure that your body language communicates what you want to say. I've had about 10 minutes now, all by myself. Can we go back to our audience and see if somebody has something to chip in at this point? Thank you. Priscilla.
Hello.
Yeah, Priscilla. Is Priscilla on the line, please?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Razak. I'm really learning a lot from this presentation. Actually, I don't have any question, but what I want to say is I would love if this kind of conference or something goes on maybe once every month or something, because you know, in school you are called to lead a group of people to present your work, and right now you in school you have to join a lot of association and then you have to lead. Sometimes it's very difficult for me to stand in public and then talk and other stuff. But I would say I want you to, do this not just for once, but it should be continuously. It's going to help, especially with the students that are, who shakes in front of people when the opportunity is being given. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Priscilla. My wife is on the call, so I'm asking her permission to do this every month. If she grants it, we'll do that. Thank you. I have Bella too. Bella's hand is up as well. Bella.
Yes. You talking about not apologizing for nerves. Well, in some circumstances, I agree with you. Like I said, I do MC like at work, departments. I do a lot of things like public speaking. But for the first time, when I had to do an MC for a university program, that was huge. I've never done such before. And surprisingly, my nerves were messing with me a bit. And so when I started, I was shaking a bit. In fact, it was my legs that were shaking. But I just told them, look, my nerves are messing with me, but don't worry, I will settle in. I said that. But at the end of the presentation, I think that was the best MC I've done. Everyone was congratulating me for doing so well. So I think that because I said that, I was making conscious efforts to make sure that though I was shaking, I was still going through. There were people who were sitting in front. I don't know if they saw it or not, but I still said it. And moreover, there were students there. So I was trying to communicate something to them. You can still be shaking and still go ahead with whatever you are doing. So not apologizing, well, that was my first time, but I still just mentioned it. And when I settled in, everybody ran, I said, look, I've settled in, so don't worry, we are going to have a smooth ride. So you say not to apologize. I don't know if it is always the case.
All right, thank you, Bella. I think you had a good audience. And with these social sciences, what it is that every situation is peculiar. So, but what we try to do is what is generally the case. So you had a good audience to the extent that they did not play on you exposing your nerves to them. You get it? But some other, imagine you said that and the place went dead quiet. The nerves would increase. But if you say so and the audience cheers you on, encourages you to push through, you may have a different reaction to it. So I put that to the audience you had. Again, it is not every apology that is an apology. Somebody, as I said, you don't oversell. I know it's also a strategy sometimes to let your audience think that you are actually not conversant with what you are doing in order not to put their expectations so high. Do you get what I'm saying? So in some situations, somebody might even go to that extent and say that, oh, my nerves are actually messing me up at this point, but then don't worry, I will push through. But what they actually mean is that I don't want you to expect much of me. Let me just do my thing and go away. And once you bring their expectation low, the little that you do is then appreciated to a level that you didn't even expect. So I take your point, but then the audience may have a role to play in that. Bismarck, if anybody wants to respond to a question that has been asked, please feel free to do so.
Let me help with something with regards to that. Hello? Yeah.
Hello, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm listening.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Bismarck. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
This is not Bismarck. This
okay,
is
please go ahead. Go ahead. Whoever.
Okay, so I'm going to touch a little bit on the nerve issue. I side with Mr. Razak when it comes to we not apologizing for our nerves. I remember I had the chance to do public speaking at one university in Accra, and after the session, because I prepared on my own to treat a different topic, but my counterpart who was supposed to treat another or present on another topic couldn't attend the event, so I had to play her role for her. And it came to point that when I was present, I was shaky because I didn't rehearse on it. And as well, at a point in time when we were closing, I was like, this presentation wasn't mine. So please apologies. I apologize for all the nerves and all the body language that didn't actually match the subject I'm treating. And we had a professor who is also in this area of public speaking, and was like, he called me after the section and was like, all the audience didn't know, all the audience didn't know it wasn't your assignment or it wasn't your task to deliver on this topic. And you did extremely good. So if you didn't touch on that, they wouldn't have known that you weren't the actual person who was supposed to be there, give that presentation. So I feel like, yeah, it counts. But on a way, he's been talking about icebreakers. And yes, we use icebreakers a lot. And in my own experience, I feel like it depends. The nature of the section, the nature of the people you are meeting, or the nature of the event. It could be a workshop, it could be a training. Sometimes some speeches don't really require icebreakers. It depends on it. When you are doing a training, when you are doing a workshop, the icebreakers are highly recommended because some of your patients, your audience or attendees, in a way, would be stressed, and sometimes icebreakers get them back on track, right? But it's not in all presentations that we really need icebreakers. My question is, how and when do we employ him when we are speaking? And also, I also want to know how or ways we can discover the essence of, really serving as a Toastmaster, especially when you have the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I say a little bit about that and move to the next person?
Yeah, okay.
So,
That's
the point made about not apologizing, I think we've dwelt on that for a while. The example you gave is a different example from what Bella experienced. And in your case, you shouldn't have apologized. So I'm glad you brought out that example. In terms of icebreakers, so icebreakers are just for the opening. It is for the opening to kill the chill that you normally find in a room. And icebreakers don't only mean jokes. You don't crack jokes with your bosses at a corporate presentation when you are not meeting your target and you are being called to come and explain why you've not met your target and you go cracking jokes. No, you don't do that. It is that statement, that action, that thing that you would have to do before you dive right into the main reason why you are there. And as I said, it can even be before the meeting starts, whilst working the room, things that you notice and you talk about, just to level to bring down the tension a bit. Usually, sometimes not your tension per se, but even the audience that is listening to you is so armed and prepared to come and slay you because you are coming to present something that they already anticipate is negative. But your first words can change that whole thing, that's the whole scenario. That is not where you go and stand and say that there was a man who went here and then you expect them to laugh. No. So it goes to your question about humor as well. There isn't any barrier to, there isn't a no-go area for humor. It depends on the relationship you have with the audience. That is why studying the audience is very important. If you haven't studied your audience, you wouldn't know whether interspersing your delivery with humor would be accepted or not. Yes, so you would only decide whether or not to use humor after you have studied your audience. And humor, again, does not mean go and tell a long joke. In my presentation, I have taken a few jabs at people who think Lionel Messi is better than Cristiano Ronaldo. That was my attempt at humor. But I have not said a joke, a long joke explaining all that. So you just have, and then we must also understand that what is humorous to one audience might be very offensive to another. So the audience studying is key in that sense. There are some no-go areas in this day that we are talking about political correctness. Why do you want to sound sexist when if you are dealing with your bosses and you have one of the gurus it's a lady, and then you are going to crack a sexist joke, a joke about why women shouldn't do certain things. You get it? You are going to shoot yourself in the foot. Why do you want to crack a joke about religion? It's too sensitive. But in another audience, in your church, if you are cracking a joke about a certain Christian practice in your own church, they will laugh at it. But if you have a mixed audience and you have, excuse me to say, some fanatics in it, they become hostile to your presentation. The hands are popping up plenty. Forgive me if I don't delve too deep into the answers. But what I'm going to do is that I'm taking notes. So any other presentation we ever do again or share will be based on the questions that came and then the responses that I have researched or experienced in my line of work. Jennifer has spoken, Atupa has spoken. So can we have JB? Can JB give us his comments? Then we go to Eben Afo. Yeah, excuse me. We have some comments also on Facebook as well as in the chat box. Please, I have not ignored them. I will get back to them very soon. Thank you. All right, go on, JB.
Hello, sir. Please, can you hear me? Hello. Please, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go on.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, I have no much questions. I just want to say I'm enjoying your presentation. And then again, let me say, I've had the opportunity to see you present this virtual seminar face to face, and I've come to role model you for that. Just a quick something you could help me with. You raised a point about the speaker not inviting expectations. Are you with me? Anything?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right, sir, thank you. You mentioned that in public speaking, it's not advisable for us to invite expectations. That I'm a bit lost. I was hoping you could elaborate. For what I know, I think inviting expectations helps in some way because just like most of the movies that we do watch, the directors are quick to infuse substance in the play to heighten our expectations. So a speaker inviting expectations, I see it to be more beneficial as the audience attention is being heightened and then they're expecting more from you. But as usual, like you said, if you fail to deliver, it counts down with you.
Yes.
Counts down. So I agree with that. But is it not helpful this way? At least attention is heightened.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think you answered the question yourself somehow. You need, if you want to heighten expectations on what you're about to deliver, then you should be somebody who is widely known to be a guru in that field. Exactly, you get me. So if you are already widely known as a guru in the field and you put up a flyer and then there are all the accolades attached to it that, hey, this man who has done this is about to do this and that. Everybody already knows that. That is what to expect. And then you never disappoint time and time again. But in your corporate setting, in your MC gig, in your chairmanship of a function gig, is there somebody who is well known as the world's best chairman of a function? No, not really. So if you are going to be introduced and you have the opportunity to tell the MC to tone down on the accolades, use it. When you take the microphone in your opening remarks and you start talking about things that gets the crowd worked up, they will appreciate it. But if the person already has overhyped you, no matter your efforts, there might be people in the audience who will not see it as interesting. But what I actually wanted to put across was the statements that we make ourselves in the middle of our speech. Oh, this interesting thing happened a while ago. That statement you make lets everybody who is actually not paying attention, it brings all the attention back to you. Wow, something interesting is about to happen. Imagine if the story was only interesting to you. Then that is where you drop the ball. So you are right. If you are an expert, let people know that the expert is about to talk, and then they will come and listen to you in their numbers. If you're a beginner, play it cool, overperform like Bella did. Bella, her first time, she played it cool. She overperformed and everyone, hey, we didn't know you could do this. You did very well. What nerves were you talking about? We never saw them. So that is what I'm talking about. Our time is, I have the time, but then it is not advisable to keep people sitting for more than 2 hours on this this call. Otherwise, the next one we put up, nobody will show up. So please, we would all like to stick to the advertised time to end at 4:30. Maybe we'll go to 4:40, 45, and then we draw the curtains. So can I just have Ebenezer Afo and then Miss Muffet, and then we move to, I think, my final slide. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Razak. This one is a question. I didn't come on board earlier. I saw the link on Facebook whilst we were live on Facebook, and I decided to join on Zoom. My question is, most of the time, right, you'll be given, especially those who have been working in startups and all these incubators, you'll be given a topic to go present on. And at a point when you go, you see your audience. When they introduce themselves, you realize, oh, I have some gurus in here, and you begin to shiver, especially if you are not very confident or you have not really mastered the subject when you talk about. So my question is, what do you do if your audience knows more than you? How are you going to treat this? Thank you very much.
Very good question, and I've had that experience too before. Quickly, let me share that one. Again, national service with the company I work for now, a different site. And then I was asked to take a group of visitors. There were just 3 visitors on a tour of the mine. I didn't know who they were. They were Japanese. I was just told to take them around. They were in their 50s, late 50s, 60s, three of them. And I'm a social scientist by profession. And then I didn't know anything about mining then. The only thing I knew was the induction that I went through and what friends had told me. But I was supposed to show the mine facility to them. So professional. And I got to something called the processing plant, the CIL. And I was told all the technical thing, the cyanide application, the grinding, the ball mill, the sag mill, everything I've been exposed to. But when I got there, one of the Japanese, the guys just told me that, oh, he's actually a geology professor from a university in Japan. Immediately, I lost confidence. How can the national service person who knows nothing about mining be asked to take a professor in geology on a mining tour? And we are standing at the plant overview, tell me how the process is. I know how the process is. So quickly, I decided not to be technical. I can't be more technical than him, and I might get it wrong because I am only learning the thing now and I'm passing it on. But then let me be very basic so that because he is not somebody who is coming to learn from me. My audience is not coming to learn from me. So in your incubator class, that professor or that professional in there is not there to learn from you. But then he's rather there to see if you rather understand the process that has gone on in that incubator training or whatever. So you see the difference. An audience that is there to learn from you, the speaker, and an audience that is there to judge the speaker to see whether the speaker understands. So the university professor knows geology, knows the mining processes, but then has heard about something in Ghana that he's coming to look at. So he said it. He said, oh, he's heard about the Taquarian rock formation, and he didn't know about it from Japan. So he took a trip to Ghana. He's seen the rock and he wants to see how the extraction is done. So I went layman. Oh, okay. So since you know all that already, this is our CIL plant. That machine over there is what they use to grind the rocks. So they don't say grind. There's another technical term for it. They say mill. I say no. That's why they used to grind the rocks. When they grind it, it becomes like powder. They add some solution to it. I understand the solution contains cyanide. It dissolves the gold. They don't say dissolve, they say leach. But then I'm not supposed to, that's not the point, the time to show off. So it dissolves the gold, it becomes liquid. So if you actually see it, it looks like water, yellowish water. Then this man was nodding. Then I went on and on until I finished the process. Then he said, this is the simplest explanation I've ever heard about mine gold extraction. Then they all started laughing. And I said, but was it wrong? I said, no, it's so simple. I wish I could do it, explain it like that to my students when I get back. So when you have professionals, that is not the point, the time for you to start showing that you know more than they do. You can't. Let them rather appreciate that you understand it and you understand it the way a layperson does, and you can go ahead and implement it the way they have taught you. I hope I've been a bit clear on that. And I know Eben, so if it's not clear, you know where to find me. Thank you.
Eben, please, can you reach out to me? I want to know more about your incubation.
Miss.
So let's talk after here, please.
Miss Muffet?
No, the one who asked the question about presenting to the investors.
Oh, Edu, I can hardly hear you. Can you come again?
No. Hello.
Yes, it's clear.
I don't know. I don't remember the name of the person who asked the question, but I think he mentioned that he's in education and then he does presentations to investors or professors.
Oh, Edu, your line is very bad.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to reach out to the person who asked the question. I want to know about the incubation stuff that he's talking about.
Okay, I can link you up. His name is Ebenezer Afo.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Eben, I'll send you Eben's number. You can have a chat afterwards.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Miss Muffet, let's have yours, and then I'll go straight to that last slide.
Okay. Thank you, Razak.
Thank you.
Mine is like a testimony and on working the room, confidence, and then one challenge. But I'll start with a challenge. So I'm the very jovial type, very sociable lady. But when it gets to making a presentation, standing in front of people to talk, I always fumble. And it starts with severe heart beats. My heart to be pumping within me. And I'm like, I'm so confused. I don't even know how to start my presentation. But with time, I realized that when I try to get the attention of the audience, probably they will get my attention, what I'm going to say. So initially I was always starting with some kind of jokes. I was smiling to people. Somehow it worked for me, but there was this one person always in the group that was always making me so uncomfortable, passing comments. Can you do it? Are you sure you can do it? Now, it went on and on for like almost 4 years.
Wow.
Also, I had the opportunity to be at a conference, and this time there was going to be an election. Lo and behold, I was given a position, and I went unopposed. Nobody told me I had to prepare an acceptance speech because that was my very first time. And somehow, because of what I've seen somewhere, I said, let me quickly jot something down. Otherwise, I'll end up disgracing myself. They'll call me and I wouldn't have anything to say. So quickly, I just pulled out my pen and I wrote something. And I wasn't even sure of what I was writing. I didn't know what I was going to make sense. I was so confused, but I did it. Then I stood in front of these people and I didn't know how to start. I didn't know how to talk. So quickly, I started singing one of our convocational songs, our slogans. I was just making noise, you see, somehow for them to also cheer me on. And this was the technique I used. I tried to work the room to get them to give me that kind of confidence. Yeah. And, you know, very funny, I gave my phone to one lady to video me because I wanted to see what I did. And I realized while I was talking, I didn't even look at the whatever I had written down. I just started from nowhere. I became a different person altogether.
Wow.
The anxiety was gone. I mean, I was just focused, talking. And then all the points started flashing, and I was just speaking to them. So right after the program, I asked the lady, I asked you to make a video of me. Why didn't you do? Because I didn't see you holding the phone. All that she told me was, what you were saying was so important that I forgot that I was holding the phone. I was just listening to what you were saying.
Exactly.
And you see, I was so happy, extremely happy. And then I listened to advices that sometimes, one thing I also realized that when you're giving a presentation and you're not careful, if you think you are too overconfident, you end up talking too much and then you won't hit the right point.
Thank you very much. No, go on, finish your point.
Hello?
Yeah, finish your point, please.
Okay, I was somewhere in the north and then I had a call from the same person who actually messed me up for 4 years. And the very first comment she passed was, you are really doing well. I never thought you could go far like this. And you are really, really doing, you are now my right after talking to her, I just thanked my God and I was like, okay, so somehow I'm almost there, but I know I'm not there yet. And
your line dropped. Hello. All right, but I think, Ms. Mafe, you made your point. The line dropped along the line. But yes, that is it. I mean, after a lot of practice.
Everything stopped. So in this way, what do I do about it? If I ask the question on the page, that how do we deal with stage fright? You get there and
hostile
somehow
audience.
You are shy off and then you don't know what to say. You don't know how to deliver the speech properly.
Ms. Mafe, I think your line dropped. Are you talking about hostile audience?
No. The question is, stage fright. How do you deal with stage fright? You know, you went
Stage
through there
fright.
so
Okay. Thank you.
yeah,
Stage
you
fright.
went there
Stage fright.
so prepared, and then you
Yes.
get there and you see some kind of people that you're so shy of, and then all of a sudden you're gone.
Yeah.
You don't know how to start it.
Thank you. So stage fright is what we've been trying to handle with the point we made earlier about the audience analysis, about working the room, about starting on a very familiar note, and again about identifying audience members who are agreeing with you, and keeping them in your sight for the first few minutes, just to make sure that you deal with the fright that is coming from, the other or the general environment. I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense. What I mean is, every point that we've discussed so far can assist you in handling stage fright. Some people get those nerves or the fright with immediately they step on the stage. In that, your first statement should be something that gets the people worked up. It should be something that gets people noticing you, paying attention to you. If you don't get that from the word go, it plays on for a long time, and if you are not experienced enough to get back on track, your entire presentation is messed up. So the first statement you make, no matter how serious the program is, my first statement is never about what I'm about to deliver. It is always about something else I've seen in the room. It is always about somebody else that I've seen around. And with that, the tension goes down. You see, you get the negative energy from the posture of the crowd. The negative energy that brings you the fright, it comes from the posture of the crowd, the seriousness with which they are looking at you. So once you get them to relax, their energy changes, and that is what is transferred to you to get you the confidence. So what do you do to get them to relax? That is the question. And that is what I'm saying, that you start with something either than the hard stuff, no matter how serious the thing is. I used Edu's example about a corporate thing, and I said that, well, what if you just went, no matter how serious the thing is, and you quietly, professionally, seriously ask your audience, your boss, please, I hope you can hear me from here. Boss, I hope the slides are clear enough from where you sit. Yes. If you have a stern boss who ignores that question, your nerves will go up. But if you have somebody who just, oh, sure, at least you know that he is engaged. From that point onwards, you build on it going forward. I don't know whether I have answered you your question, Ms. Maffei.
Yes, please. You have.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Let's get to this slide about, so I talked about primacy and recency. This is what I would like you to take home as the memory, what you take from this whole experience. From my personal experience, the words you speak when you are making a public speech accounts for only 7% of what you deliver, what people remember. Your body language assists you 55%. It contributes 55% of the success of the speech. So the words you speak only contributes 7% to the success of your speech. Your body language takes as much as 55%, and then your voice tone, your modulation, and your pauses carry the rest. Have this picture in mind, that first of all, I'm sitting in the comfort of my home, but I'm not in a t-shirt and a cap, because the topic is a bit of something that you need in a corporate environment. So anybody who knows me knows I don't wear this, but my body language will speak a lot. So I need to dress the part. That is what you must do. When you get on stage, body language is a function of culture. I will not tell you to put your hand in your pocket or not put your hand in your pocket. Neither would I tell you to put your hands behind you or by your side or on the podium, because these things have been overhyped. If you had an American audience and you had one hand in your pocket, they will say you are confident. If you did it in Ghana, you are arrogant. If you kept your hand behind you in a certain culture, you are too timid. You are not confident. In another culture, you are humble. So that is not the takeaway from the body language stuff. The body language should show confidence. Don't look down too much. Try and engage with eye contact. Use the space around you. Walk around. If I came doing this presentation like this, if you can see my video, relaxed with my head tilted to the back, I will look so disinterested in what I'm saying. You get it? And that would definitely affect how the audience also takes the message. But if I continue, I intermittently lean forward, look straight in the camera, and then talk directly to my audience, and occasionally look away to see what I want to talk about. All that body language, use my hand gestures to explain certain things. And I've even had tapped on my table a few times. Yes, these are all things that I use to communicate how serious I am with the topic that I'm sharing, to show the passion that I have for what I'm saying. So with that, you can see the chat column, unless there are people that maybe like me too much and they are saying good things about me. Otherwise, I see a lot of positive comments in there, and I believe it is not just the things I'm saying, but even the passion with which I'm saying it is conveying that I actually love what I'm talking about. So that is what we mean by your body language. And that is closely linked with your voice. Let your audience hear you. Let them hear you. Don't scream into their ears, but then get yourself the modulation. It should be at a level that you see that they can appreciate it. If you're going to use audio equipment, go early and test them. Don't take the microphone and get the feedback at the first point. Then the feedback is there. Well, everybody goes, then you have to start apologizing from the beginning and before you go on. So test all these things if you are going to use audio visuals and all that. So please, that is very important in terms of body language in making your delivery. So today, we have attempted to explain what public speaking is all about. We have attempted to give examples. People have shared their own experiences, and we know that stage fright is normal. The nerves are normal. Everybody has them. There is a popular, should I say popular? Is it popular? Let me see if I can get that. Yes. Again, my favorite authority on public speaking when it comes to these funny quotes. He says that there are only two types of speakers in the world: the nervous and liars. Anyone who tells you that they have never had nerves when they are speaking in public is a liar. But they manage it, they train, and then they get it off. So please don't think you are alone if you have stage fright. You should have stage fright. You are a human being. But does it last 2 seconds when you pick the microphone and it disappears, or do you shake throughout your speech? That is where the difference lies. And with a few tips that we have shared today, I hope sincerely that when practiced, you will be able to get rid of the fright. You will be able to communicate exactly what you want to communicate. And at the end of the day, your speech will be memorable. So all the great speakers you should know were once bad speakers at first. Nobody got it right the first time. Every great speaker, we mentioned Obama. Let me talk about Fidel Castro, who is quoted as, well, I read it somewhere. I don't know how far it's true. So if it's not true, maybe you chalk it down in the joke column. That he went to the UN General Assembly. He spoke for 4 hours. And as usual, as it happens, some people get up and leave when the socialists and some of those presidents start talking. He went on for 4 hours. After that, journalists asked him for a copy of his speech, and he gave them a sheet of paper with 4 bullet points on it, meaning that for every bullet point, he spoke for an hour. He developed it for an hour. Yes, so those are some of the great speakers we've had in our time. And then according to Emerson, they were all once bad speakers. If you're a bad speaker now, it's not the end of the world. Practice, practice, practice. It is not failure itself that holds you back. It is the fear of failure that paralyzes you. So the fact that you might fail, that is what will paralyze you. But the question is, if you fail, and so what? Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Razak. Thank you.
I did promise that I'll read some comments. Some of them I've tried to answer. The Facebook comments, do I have them? Thank you all who showed up on Facebook, those who answered questions, who asked questions. We have attempted to respond to quite a number of them. Anytime we have another session, we'll take our time to maybe get somebody to assist me who will be reading the comments intermittently as they do on the radio programs. So Samuel Bolo, thank you very much. How about telling the audience I'm nervous just to get them laugh? Exactly, I think I made that point. Yes, you are not nervous, but you said it. But if you were really nervous and you said it, it builds on your nerves. But if you are not and you just said it to crack a joke, yes, it's a good strategy. Somebody asked, what about planting people in the audience who would agree with you, laugh with you, and hype you and pump you on? You are talking about issues of ethics. Is it ethical? What audience are you talking about? It's not every place that you can pay people to come and pump you up. But then politicians do that. Politicians do that, and it works. Academically, if you want to look at it academically, it works. They bring people in there so that everything, but even imagine the vettings that go on in Parliament that we listen to sometimes. The questions that come are so leading that the question was cooked for somebody to answer. So that is about that too. So those are a few comments on Facebook that I can touch on now. Bernard Sichi Aqua, the strategy I use is to own up the fright. I let everyone know my knees are knocking together well, and then they start to giggle, blah, blah, blah. Fine, you can elicit, that is the Bella experience. So that is also a good point. Thank you very much, Solomon Ousudamwa, Francis, Kujo, Joseph, Mama, and all others who contributed to the discussion. We would advertise when next we would have another session. Thank you once again and have a good evening.